Welcome to The Roll Call, the podcast where we dive into the roles that define us. I'm your host, John Glahn. On each episode, we explore the journeys of people discovering their true roles in life, business, and beyond. Get ready for inspiring conversations about finding purpose and authenticity. Let's roll the roll call. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Roll Call. I have with me Alex Miranda, CEO, founder of Virtify. He's been in business for 7+ years, trying to connect U.S. businesses with some virtual staffing help and growing like crazy and doing wonderful things. I've got myself here. Alex is all here. We're all accounted for. Let's start the roll call. Alex, welcome, man.
John, thank you for having me, man. I love your little intro of finding purpose and meaning. It's a big part of my value system.
No, that's great. As we were jamming a little bit before, right? You talk about, hey, what the hell do we talk about on here? Yeah, I love entrepreneurs. I love their story, but I love making sure that we don't forget the rest of our story. And, and I can't help but focus and see the things you have in the background. And I know we can't see them all. I saw them earlier, but how does that tie into, speaking of what you just mentioned in passion, how does that tie in for you?
Yeah, I mean, at some point along my entrepreneurial journey, you start to want to find why is this, first, why am I here? Right? Why am I on this earth? And for some reason that always happens around 28 years old. It's a biological thing, 28, 29. Why are we here? I was already 3 years into my entrepreneurial journey at that point. And so I started going back to church at that time, start getting serious about finding a wife. And I read this book, Purpose Driven Life. And such a great book, puts so much into perspective about why we're really here in this world. And really what it taught me is that I need to put God first. And I can't separate God and business, right? There has to be authenticity comes when we're just one person all the way through. And so once I started putting God first in my business and started separating sort of my Sunday from my Monday to Friday, but now I brought it all together, realizing Sunday was the prep work for Monday through Friday. And not that I took Saturdays off. I did when I was a firstborn Christian, all right? But then eventually my Saturdays caught up too. But everything started to have meaning and purpose. Before staffing, I had a branding agency. And branding is the external manifestation of some entrepreneur's internal desire for change. That's the whole point of a company, really, is that an entrepreneur saw a problem in the market and felt called to fix it. Hopefully, that's why they started business. Because if they started business for any other reason, they will fail. It's just you don't have you don't have what it takes, the energy and the commitment that it takes to keep that business going, unless you have found meaning and purpose and calling behind it. So I have to pull that. As a branding agency, at first I would be like, John, okay, what logo do you want? What colors do you want? What wording do you want? I was like an order taker. But once I started to realize that God uses a person's business to bring about the change he wants in the world, then I'm like, oh, wow, okay, now a branding strategy session has some spiritual significance behind this. We're talking about a person's livelihood and their whole entire future. So I needed to come in from a whole new perspective to brand someone, which helped me then give them their why in a much more elevated way.
Wow. It's incredible to hear how that came about. I know there's many twists and turns and things that come through to that, right? But having, you hit on the head, most people, they start with the what they need to do, right? They see a need in the market, so they go tackle it, and that's their fuel, right? To go make more money or to get more clients or do whatever. And they're focusing on the thing they're doing, and then they focus on a logo that matches that. Then they focus on a website that might be cute and pretty. but very few start with, wait, why are we doing this again? And not just about money, but why are we actually getting out of bed? And because it gets harder, as you know, right? Each business, it doesn't get easier in the beginning. It gets harder, and you find ways to make it easier. But right, in order to keep that grind going, you've got to have it tied to something else besides that work.
And you can find that, John. You can. I would try as much as possible to try to find that before the business starts. Right. I would.
Mhm.
As much as possible, I'm like, hey, before we start this, why don't we find your why? And some clients would buy into it and help and let me guide them. So all I am is a guide to their own heart. Sometimes, though, you're doing a rebranding of a company. So they're 5-10 years into this and they still don't have their core why. And so rebranding projects are a lot of fun because you go in and you're getting in deep. Now, why, and starting to uncover who they really are. And now you can bring this crazy aha moment and basically shift the entire culture of the company 10 years into it to a whole new direction, because finally someone came along and wanted to dive deeper into the heart of the entrepreneur and ask these questions, which only happens when you have a branding person who is spiritually connected and they feel called to call the called. That's when you get a good branding agency. And I don't have a branding agency anymore, so I hope nobody calls me for branding. I've moved on from that. But it's a very exciting process if you do it correctly.
It is interesting that you're doing that type of heavy work, or did, right, on the branding, and I mean, it's clear, it's on your, it's written on your sleeve there, right? It's you can see it now, just by you talking, right? I mean, that's the work we do as Bloom Growth coaches, right? It's helping people find identity, because the same thing, everything that I do is rebranding essentially in a different fashion, right? Because very few people have the means or the foresight or funding, to start with a business operating system with a coach, right? It's generally some years in where they've skinned their knee enough, they've realized they can't grow anymore, or or the owner wants more time, right? And that's when we generally come in and like, okay, now, and to a T, that's the heaviest work that we get to do is finding the why for the business. And then the next step is, how do we get everybody else tied to it? How do we get everybody else believing in it or realizing what their purpose, cause, or passion is? Mm-hmm. And how can they relate to it? It doesn't have to be the same, but how can they relate to it? That's the heavy stuff, that, to your point, right? No, it's not an off the shelf thing. That's not again, not just happenstance. That, again, most businesses, it'd be wonderful if they started with that why, but most of them, again, they start with sweat, right? That's just the small to medium business. That's how it starts.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, right? I didn't know where this was headed, but that's why I love it.
The spirit took over.
Yeah. No, glory be to God in what He allows us to do.
Amen.
Right? Sit back in awe.
Amen.
Oh, that's awesome. So, your journey. So let's talk about that, right? So, I know you had your staffing agency, and I know there's a reason why you're not in that, or I'm sorry, the branding agency, and the reason you're not in that anymore.
Yeah.
Talk about that journey a little bit.
That's a good story. That's a really good story, a heavy story. I had gone to Cornell University to study business and entrepreneurship. I was always an entrepreneur since a kid, so I already knew I was going to go to school for this. And I got out, and a year later, I started a branding agency with the niche of serving the nightlife industry. I'm from Miami. 20-something-year-olds in Miami were clubbers. Mm-hmm. That's just the culture down here. And but I wanted to get in the business side of nightlife, because there is, hospitality is a thing. You actually study that in college, hospitality. So even Harvard came out with like a nightlife thing, like a course at their business program. So this was in the transition period from flyers to like MySpace and email marketing to getting people to the clubs. And I'm a 23-year-old, 24-year-old, and nightclubs owners really trusted that we knew what we were doing there. So we started this agency, and man, we skyrocketed. By 2008, I had 14 employees on a South Beach agency office overlooking the ocean, right across the street from one of our biggest clients. I was living the life, 28 years old, just crushing it. Like my friends would come to South Beach to party, and they'd be able to come by my office, and I'll show it off. I was just, we were rocking it. But then in 2008, we all suffered this sort of economy dip because of the mortgage crisis, whatever that was, and the nightlife got hit by it. Miami was a big hit in that time period. Everyone was short selling their homes. It was a terrible time. And I didn't adjust immediately and start firing people. I just kept paying them, but I was paying them with payroll tax money that I should have been sending to the government. My CPA calls me in and informs me that I owe a lot of money to the IRS. And I had no clue where I was going to get all this from. And funny enough, it was my CPA that told me, hey, did you know that you could use people internationally and at a fraction of the price that you're paying your people here, and then you don't have to deal with payroll taxes and health insurance and all that stuff. And the numbers made sense. But did the talent make sense? That's kind of a big deal here when you're doing nightclub design. How can a dude from the Philippines know how to graphic design for the nightlife here in the United States? It's a unique form of art. But we tried it, and it worked. And I went from paying $25 an hour plus to my staff here to paying $5. And that's a big difference for an entrepreneur. That was my first taste in virtual staffing. Was for my own branding agency. I actually saved my company. I was able to downsize the office, move offices because rent was crazy, and really bring my core team here to like account management, project management, sales. Those were US based jobs. Everything else went, John. Everything else went international. And that saved my company. I ended up getting out of the nightlife industry just because I had shared earlier that I found my relationship with God, and the two kind of don't mix. So I evolved out of that and went into just generalist. But along that journey, I really conquered how to manage an international team. Out of the box, it doesn't work. You have to have standard operating procedures. You have to have training programs. You have to have the communication. You have to have the project management systems. All that stuff I had really become an expert at. And so really revolutionized my company to be able to survive.
Wow. I've got so many places to go in all that. The start with, because I generally like to latch onto things that have my own scar tissue. When times are tough, and as I was mentioning to you before, my base business is in the construction industry, and COVID was it was a long hangover from COVID, and in a similar situation, I know the feeling, the highs and the lows of entrepreneurship, right? And the fact that so just to highlight the fact that you could have closed up, you could have said, I'm out, right? Because I know those situations, right? There's the easy button that is not easy, but it's like, hey, bankruptcy, you name it, right? There's like, hell with it. This is not fun enough anymore to make this, the juice worth the squeeze. And the fact that you were innovative and finding something else to do. That's number one. Number two, I want to echo and, because I was going to insert a question and you answered it for me, which is because I've had virtual assistants and remote workers, even remotely here, right? Because normally, back to the old days when everyone was in the office, right? When you had someone that was an outlier, and seeing the difficulties of potentially how they can fail or succeed. I think the most of it comes down to, like you rattled it off, right? It's the communication, it's the process. Someone has to manage them. You can't so they're amazing talent all around the world. Amazing talent all around the world. They just live in a different situation. As actually for mine, virtual assistant was a chemical engineer. Like, are you kidding me? We just got to show them what we need and want. So that's incredible. So then how long did you do that in that business before you said, you know what, it's time for me to go try?
You know what? It wasn't me. It was my own clients. They started asking me, how are you doing this? I want staff internationally too. I know you're not paying them, US rates. So then it was a client of mine. I had done their branding and all that stuff. And then he asked me, and I said, you know what? One of my people has a sister, someone they graduated with. She was asking me if they could work for us, but I didn't have any more need. You know what? Why don't you take her? And I just made the introduction. It wasn't like I was making money. I was just trying to hook a client up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was a massive failure. He calls me just like, hey, this girl totally is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one of those people that's more like a victim blamer. I asked him, I'm thinking, what did you go wrong? What did you do? And so I started asking him, okay, what did you have? Do you have them in a project management system? Like, how were you sending work? Did you train them? How long? No, nothing. And he didn't even have the time to train. And what is she supposed to do? Like, just be a fortune teller and just magically know what to do? So it could have been a little of both, but I knew he was just as a contributor as her. I didn't even talk to her because I didn't have a staffing agency, so I didn't care. But that did teach me something, which is I know something people don't know, and I can add value in this middle transaction.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I had the idea. It was also Venezuela at the time was going through a crazy crisis of just unemployment and people leaving. And Venezuela is the most educated country in Latin America, in all of Latin America. They're the most westernized, completely settled by Europeans over the last 100 years. They brought a massive culture of education. Everyone there doesn't just get a bachelor's, they get a master's. It doesn't stop at bachelor's. Over there, they go the next step. So you do get these engineers, architects, masters in this, masters in that, just crazy amounts of talent down there, but in a terrible situation. Mm-hmm. So I said, that's where that sort of heart in me, calling in me, started calling me to say, hey, maybe there's something we can do about this to help out. And I call up one of my clients who's Venezuelan. I said, look, there's an opportunity. I know what's going on over there, but what that's going to create is a massive opportunity for remote staffing. And we can find Venezuelans jobs remotely here in the US. And he absolutely loved it. As a Venezuelan himself, he saw that as like the way he could give back to Venezuela. And so he's like, Alex, count me in. Let's go 50-50. So we started this staffing agency to help Venezuelans find jobs with companies here in the United States. And it's not just VA jobs. We're talking about highly skilled people working highly skilled jobs here in the United States. Everything from I've staffed a COO, John.
Oh, wow.
I've staffed a CFO. There's
Wow.
massive talent down there. People who managed multinational corporations, books. The accounting community down there is huge. HR, marketing, you name it, sales. These guys are bilingual and their accent is really good. So there's just such a crazy opportunity here in the United States to staff professional level jobs, bachelor or more degrees, bilingual in professional jobs, not just assisting things, but really professional jobs. Yeah.
And to be clear, are you placing them with the company, or you are employing them and they're paying Purchify?
They get placed with that company, but I'm the employer of record. So company pays me, I pay them. But remember, I told you about that value add that you have to serve in the middle. So I have to help create standard operating procedures, the KPIs for success, all the training programs that they have to go through in order to get trained. Then I have to make sure they're working their 40 or 20. It's either part-time or full-time. Any HR issues come to me first before they go to the client. So we're able to resolve like 70% of anything that comes up. So yeah, we're like a real HR department. So if you have a big company and you have an HR department, you actually don't take up your issues with your employee. You actually go to HR and take up an issue. Then HR handles that issue. And that's who we serve to our clients. So our clients see us as a tool to scale up quickly, grow quickly, or scale down. But they really love the fact that, let's say if an employee wants to leave, we find the replacement, and the employee leaving has to train the employee coming in. Like, you don't get that in this real world of employment. You get it with us because we're the employer of record in the middle. So there's some, and even with my fee in the middle, we're still 50% less than what it would cost to hire that same employee here in the US. So there's a real true win-win-win that happens here.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, you started saying some maybe more non-traditional. I think I'd love to go down that path a little more, meaning more skilled, right? Whether it be accounting or sales. But what about an industry, or what type of thing? Because, most people that I've, had conversations with, they're more thinking about that's more in the service industry, or again, you don't have to physically be there to touch something, or, what's like an industry that to help other people think outside the box of how they could possibly use a service like yours.
You mentioned you were in construction, manufacturing. What were you in?
We sell manufactured product into the construction industry. And
so
I have some.
So I'll tell you what those kinds of clients use me for. I'll start with business development. There was a company that sells into oil, the oil mining industry, the mining industry. They sell pipes, all that crazy stuff to the mining industry in South America. Well, we found him a procurement. She was formerly a procurement person in the oil industry in Venezuela, because Venezuela is the #1 oil manufacturing. So she was in procurement. So he used to sell to kind of people like her.
Right.
But we found her to become a business development person for him for the South America market.
Oh, wow.
So now she's going and getting on bids of other oil mining facilities because she knows the industry. She knows it. So even in Latin America, she can travel to Latin American shows.
Oh, right.
John, the possibilities, like when a company wants to go international and they sell into Latin America, this is the best way
Look out.
to do it. You can literally find talent down there to be you and your company through us. It can come down to we're also in procurement in that same company. So now, because they have to go and procure and put together all these bids, that put together the estimates, all that stuff happens through us. Inventory management's in there. Marketing. So the guy launches a website. Now someone has to manage all the products that are going on the website. So now there's a whole marketing component, web development component too, to that particular manufacturing. He was more of a broker, wholesaler. I'm speaking in that particular sense. But really, John, here's what it comes down to. This guy had an on-site staff here in the United States, okay? But
Traditional.
On-site staff was getting dragged into admin work, which was delaying on-site work that needed to get done to pack something up and get out the door. You're using on-site people to do what someone in the back office could do.
Right.
So now if you take off-site back office work from on-site people, you make on-site people more present to solve really the on-site issues. So what I teach companies is, how lean can we be on-site so that on-site people are really focused on on-site work? And how much can we take away from them so that they're just more present? So if there is a procurement department in a company, why can't there just be a head of procurement and then 3 procurement people internationally? So now the head of procurement can actually show up to the leadership meetings and be present as the head of procurement, knowing 3 people are on the back end
doing
procuring.
the work. Right.
There's a lot of possibility, even in the finance side of things. Gosh, they were backed up on accounts receivable. Now we found them a person to get into the accounts receivable and really stay on top of people and making sure they're making their payments. It's just so much. Really, it's about enhancing operational efficiency through the back office. This is really what it comes down to, John.
Yeah, you're talking more business than you're talking about what's needed, right? How do we work on your business, and we can fill the holes with the who's, right?
Which is why we are great partners with people like yourself, because what you go in is you identify a lot of problems that are happening. You obviously put in a system to be able to identify those, but also work towards the goals. But a big part, I'm sure, of what you guys do is finding the right people for the right seat of the bus. And we're great partners with people like yourself, because you can bring us to the table as a really great solution.
And that's obviously much of what we do are counterparts or competition, right? And an operating system is, hey, how do we keep the wheels on the bus, to your point? Okay, how do we just keep the wheels from falling off? Number one. And then the really good ones are, how the heck do we scale this, right? If people want, right? If you want to grow and you want to scale and you want to grow, that requires people, that requires courage. But there's a budget. And so that's where you're filling both parts of it, right? An owner, again, generally for me, I want to work with an owner that wants to grow. One that doesn't want to grow, the model isn't the right. It can't be the right model to run a company and be more profitable, do all kinds of things. But at the same time, it's just not my target market, right? Someone who does want to grow. So again, there is a budget in that, but you're handling both sides of it. So how do I operationally can be more efficient? That could open up some budget, but also you can scale it at a different pace if you just are open to the possibilities, right? Because most people that we deal with, right, like, they think of hiring at the highest level. That is the biggest farce that I run against. Is someone's like, I don't have a couple $100,000 to go hire another leadership team member. Well, do you have to, or do we hire at the lowest level possible and raise people up? That's when the shifts really happen. The changes really happen.
Yeah. And what I do, this is not a cost-cutting initiative. This is a shift in the way in which you do business. I call it the hybrid hiring model. You're literally changing the entire way that you used to do business. You used to do business by hiring people to come into an office, give them a desk, oversee them, all that good stuff. Good. That's been the way. That's how I learned it at Cornell. That's just the way it is. This is a whole new way of operating and growing your business. It's virtual first. It's thinking virtual first. It's like, how do I keep things so efficient and lean here and present here and build an entire infrastructure remotely? It doesn't work without operating systems.
Right.
Okay? It doesn't work. That's why you and I are great partners. It does not work without KPIs and tracking and all the good stuff. It doesn't work. That's what I learned with my friend at the beginning. It doesn't work. You need the systems in the middle to make sure. But when you're operating with a true operating system like yours, you can have your COO in Venezuela. You can have them in Argentina. You can have them wherever you want, because they're going to be cranking based on their role and what they're supposed to be doing.
Awesome. Well, thanks, man. I mean, hopefully, I think people are taking some great nuggets and at least opening some eyes or thinking twice, which is what I want to do here. But I also want to turn it back to you. And, I love to talk about the roles that we play. And we'll start with the tactical, business stuff. What roles are you playing in the business today?
I'm CEO, and as CEO, I get to be the number one salesperson, the number one in business development. I get to be the face of the company, show up to podcasts like yours. I get to go to networking events. I get to be free from all of the admin work. I open up a lead conversation, but after my 15 minutes are done, I never have to see that opportunity again, because I've built a team that can handle everything the way that I did originally at the beginning of my company, but I was able to train out the way I want things done, so that I create a system where if I meet someone, I have a great conversation, I can pass that along to my team, and I know the sale is going to close. And not just that, but the client's going to be really happy. And months later, I'm finding out that they're just having a great time with their new staff member. That's the life that I've been able to build. And that's the visionary role that I've wanted to be. And I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. So I've worn all the hats. So in this version of business, of entrepreneurship, I wanted to create the ideal situation for Alex to be a true CEO in the company. So whatever those job descriptions are for a true CEO, I am that.
That's awesome. Because it's funny, people, they slap that title on pretty easily. And yet they are the chief dishwasher. They're the one opening and closing. They're the one taking the, it's, it can be a vanity title. And, unless you put people around you and you have structure around you to live in that.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic.
I'm all about fake it till you make it, John.
Yeah.
So if you want to be CEO now, but also be the dishwasher, awesome. Just know that eventually you're not the dishwasher, and eventually you're stepping into these roles that I've described. But at the beginning, you're the dishwasher. We all were.
Well, yeah. And some people don't know how to get out of that because that's what they're just accustomed to doing. Right. So that's the evolution and the changes when we can stop and look on our business, instead of working in it, we're working on it. And that's when things can shift and change. And that's what I love. That's what I love doing. Because again, I generally have the heart to help someone I can see where they're sitting because I was there myself. Right. And so That's what perks me up. So what other roles do you have in life? The family side, community?
Yeah. Husband, 14 years now.
Awesome.
Father, 4 kids. Disney adult. We go to Disney every single month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're Disney family. As an entrepreneur, you have to take care of the business, then you got to take care of your health, so that you could show up to your family in a proper way. And so I really don't get home till about 7:30, 8 o'clock sometimes, because right after the office, I'm heading to CrossFit and spending 2 hours, sometimes 2.5 hours, working out, recovering, sauna. Those are important to me. I can't be the best possible husband or father if I don't take care of myself. What does that mean, though? It means that during the week, I'm spending a lot less time with my children. So I have to be extremely intentional about time with them. And I do that. I've baked in Disney. It's only 3.5 hours from my house, door to door. Actually, 3 hours and 21 minutes to be exact. So, we can get out to Disney. I don't take my laptop. I'm not taking calls unless it's a 10-day Disney trip. Then my family understands that I gotta work, and I'll take a couple calls there, be on my L10s. And if, but that's quality time that I get to do every single month, with my children. But this is on purpose, John. It's on purpose for my marriage. It's on purpose for my family, and it's in the budget. $2,500 a month in the budget is for Disney. It is what it is. What it is.
Wow. That it comes down to intentionality and planning, right? That's not an accident.
Yes. So it's an on purpose, and you have to purpose your vacations. I see the big entrepreneurs do it. They put out at the beginning of the year. I have a friend, Josh Nelson. He's got a huge company. He'll put it on his stories on Facebook and Instagram. On January something at the beginning, they buy this thing called the big ass calendar. It's a huge calendar of your whole year. And the first thing that they're placing is all the vacations. That's how it has to be, man. It's like the book Profits First, where you have to pay yourself first as an entrepreneur. Vacation first. It's the first thing you plan in your business is the vacations that you're going to have with your family. So what the hell is the point of entrepreneurship if we're not able to have the freedom to be able to go out and enjoy life?
Wow, Alex, I think I wouldn't mind having a little meme of you on my shoulder when I, meeting with clients and talking to clients, right? Because I meet generally, like, the very few that when I'm engaged or get engaged, it's not because it's life is sunny and rosy and we're doing vacations and there's money just falling out of our ears, right? There's generally a point where there's some pain, and they're like, okay, we need some help, right? I gotta figure out how to live the life that I want to. I just listened to this podcast with this Alex Miranda guy. This dude is with his family. He's doing all these vacations. How the hell's he doing that? Right? It's not by accident, and it doesn't happen overnight, but there are steps to take.
Amen.
Alex, dude, this has been an awesome session. I'm really glad that we got connected. I like to do one thing at the end, and I'm sorry for not giving you a heads up. I like to have you share one, perceived mistake, failure, perceived failure that would be in your life. If you can go biggest, as deep as you want, whatever you want, but that someone else could benefit from the lesson.
John, I thought marriage was supposed to make me happy. And what I discovered along the unhappiness trail is that marriage, by design, by God's design, was supposed to make us holy. Marriage is the furnace that we are put into to remove all of our ugliness and all of our sin, so that we can be the best followers of Christ and show up in this world in the best possible way. And if we do not see marriage as a CrossFit workout that is tough and grueling, but that over time of the breaking of those muscles, that pain starts to show up in an amazing way through our health and our physical appearance. If we do not see marriage as a terrible CrossFit workout, we have missed the point of God's design for marriage. And I think people think marriage is supposed to give them all of this happiness, and they've got it all wrong. When you change your mindset on marriage itself, you start to love and appreciate all of the things that used to make you really upset, and you start to smile all the way through it. And eventually, like in working out, eventually you will see the results. Stick through it. Don't get the divorce. No, the enemy just doesn't want you to personally develop to be your best.
Wow. I think we'll have that one on reel flowing, because I appreciate the realness in what you just said. Didn't gussy up a pig for anything in this, right, to make it look better. I've often said, right, we're different species. And there was a time when I was like, man and women, they're not supposed to be married because it's not supposed to be this hard. I've been down there, and it's not all roses. It's not all the fairy tale, right?
But why are we willing to do it in our businesses, but not in our marriage? We're willing to go on the roller coaster ride of the terrible times in business, at which we know are going to make us better entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
Why aren't we seeing marriage as the same tool that's used to refine us? Marriage is not meant to make us happy. It's meant to make us holy. And if we all got on the same page about that, we would see divorce rates drop, families stay together more, and men showing up as the kings that they need to be so that we can progress humanity in the way in which God designed it.
I need to stop it here, because that's the nugget that's going to bring us home. Marriage is here to make us holy. Alex, again, didn't see this coming, man. And I am so glad that we connected. How do people get in touch with you? How do they get your services for Virtufy and some counseling? Sorry, I know that you're not often.
I'll answer both of those. You want to do some business with Virtufy, you go to Virtufy, VIRTRIFY, VIRTRIFY.com, Virtufy. And then you want some good tips. I have a blog called Daily Godpreneur. I have some Bible plans on the YouVersion app, the Bible app. We didn't get to talk about it at all, John. It's probably a topic for a whole different podcast. But I personally develop by reading the word and then sharing it to Christian entrepreneurs. It's how I retain that information. So I'm 980 blog posts deep, 54 devotionals deep, and these are all free. It's my calling in this life to read the entire Bible and bring it to Christian entrepreneurs in a way that they can understand it and fall in love with it.
Wow. Well, again, Alex, everyone just got one heck of a nuggets today. We'll make sure that we post that for everyone to be able to connect with you. Again, Alex, God bless. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for tuning in to The Roll Call with John Glahn. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe for more insightful conversations. Remember, discovering your true role in life is a journey worth exploring each and every day. Until next time, Keep defining your path and living your authentic self. This is John Glahn signing off.